Hey there, Ball Tower Defense fans. If you've ever stared at the banner screen wondering which units are actually worth your precious rolls, you're not alone. With so many flashy characters and shiny rarities, it's easy to get overwhelmed. But here's the kicker, some lower rarity units can absolutely outshine those high tier ones. Yep, your underdog dreams are valid in this game, and I'm here to break it all down for you. In this video, we're diving into the ultimate Ball Tower Defense unit tier list. I'll help you figure out which units are must-haves, which ones are just meh, and how to avoid wasting resources on shiny but useless traps. Whether you're a seasoned player or just rolling into the game, pun intended, this guide will get you stacking wins like a pro. So grab a snack, settle in, and let's get started. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking units in Ball Tower Defense. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
A very small portion of the audience is subscribed to the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe if you like these types of videos. Thanks.
The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Old Ball, Ball, Fireball, Ice Ball, and Poison Ball. You ever look at a unit in Ball Tower Defense and think, why does this even exist? Well folks, welcome to the tragic saga of the E tier units. These are the kind of balls you wouldn't even use for backyard dodgeball, let alone a high stakes tower defense match. Let's break it down, shall we? First up, we've got Old Ball Odd. I mean, what can I say? It's literally an old ball. Low DPS, low range, and honestly, low expectations. If this ball were a character in a movie, it'd be the one everyone forgets was even there. It's like the grandparent who used to be great at bowling but now can't roll past the bumper. Nostalgic? Maybe. Useful? Not a chance. Then there's the classic ball normie, and when I say classic, I mean boring. It's a ball. It exists. That's its entire personality. You'd have better luck tying a rock to a stick and calling it a weapon. Sure, it gets the job done, if the job is disappointing your team. Don't even get me started out on Fireball Normie, basically Ball Normie's edgy cousin who thinks being on fire makes them cool. Spoiler, it doesn't. You'll outgrow this one faster than a bad haircut. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Ball 2.0, Monkey, Grassman, Grug, Police Ball, Electric Ball, and Survivor Ball. Alright, let's talk about the units you should probably bench in Ball Tower Defense. You know, the ones you might look at and think could be worse, but also could be much better. Yeah, welcome to the D tier, home of the meh, the mediocre, and the why did I spend coins on this? Let's dive in. Starting off, Ball 2.0 is the classic odd unit. It's cheap, gets the job done in the early waves, but let's be real, it's like bringing a slingshot to a laser tag fight. Grug, another odd unit, is basically in the same boat. Decent enough until you unlock something better, but after that, he's warming the bench for eternity. Then we've got Monkey, who tries to be relevant with okay DPS, but honestly, rare units completely outshine this guy. Poor Monkey. Now, let's talk about the units that are almost interesting but just miss the mark. Grassman has decent AoE range, but his damage output is like whispering in a hurricane. Meanwhile, Police Ball stands out slightly for an odd unit with Pierce and okay DPS, but even then, it's just okay. Oh, and don't forget Survivor Ball, who is just there, barely. Finally, Electric Ball is actually kind of a gem for beginners, great DPS for a normie unit, but compared to what's out there, it's still not making it out of D tier. So yeah, if you're running any of these, don't stress, they'll carry you through the tutorial. But once you've got better units unlocked, let's just say they're perfect candidates for retirement. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Demon Ball, Rock Ball, Backpacker, Boxer Ball, Sniper Ball, Builders Club Ball, Day Grungy, Flame Ball, Beach Ball, Bomb Ball, Peasant Ball, Slinger, Military Ball, and Noob. Alright, let's talk about some of the C tier units in Ball Tower Defense. These guys might not be the absolute worst, but they definitely have their flaws. They're not bad by any means, but they certainly don't shine like some of the other units you could be using. So, if you're looking for units to build up your collection but don't have better options, these are some to keep an eye on. First up, we've got Demon Ball. It's got that reliable burn damage that's pretty great, and honestly, it can outrank some rare units in certain situations. But here's the catch. When you throw it into the mix with other awesome units, it just doesn't quite measure up. It's solid for beginners, but if you're aiming for top tier performance, you'll probably want to upgrade to something with more oomph. Then there's Rock Ball, which may not have the longest range, but it's one of the best rare DPS units. The problem with Rock Ball is its range limitations. It's not going to be hitting targets from across the map. But hey, if you're just starting out and need a dependable damage dealer without breaking the bank, Rock Ball is definitely a solid pick. If you're after something more affordable with decent pierce and DPS, Backpacker is a great option. It's cheap, gets the job done right from the start, and does well in the early to mid game. But let's be real, it doesn't have the same staying power as higher tier units, so be ready to swap it out when you need to up your game. Boxer Ball is another solid beginner-friendly unit. If you're just starting, this little guy provides great DPS without requiring much to set up. It's straightforward, which is why it's so effective for those learning the ropes. However, if you're a more experienced player, you might want to move on to something with more utility. Moving on to Sniper Ball, this one's a little tricky. It has impressive damage output, but man, is it slow. The upgrades are pretty expensive too, so unless you're prepared to spend a bit, it won't be the most efficient choice. Still, if you've got the patience and resources, Sniper Ball can pack a punch. Now, let's talk about Builder's Club Ball. It's a great res support unit for stalling enemies in the mid game, but you don't want to rely on it as your main strategy. It's useful, but not the star of the show. Personally, I prefer Frozen Ball for support, but if you don't have it, Builder's Club Ball can hold things down while you build up your stronger units. And finally, we've got Dagranji. This one's a bit of a wild card. It's not the strongest rare unit out there, but it does bring some useful utility to the table. Whether it's summoning or farming, Dagranji can help get the job done, especially if you're playing the long game and need some extra support. It's definitely not a powerhouse, but it can surprise you in the right circumstances. So there you have it, folks. These are some of the units you'll find in the C tier of Ball Tower defense. They're not terrible, but they're definitely not the ones you're going to rely on to carry your entire game. They're more about filling in gaps and providing utility when needed. But if you're serious about getting those top tier wins, you'll want to keep looking for something a bit more powerful. Happy playing! The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Partyman, Turkey, Miner Ball, Autumn Ball, Dart Monkey, Princess Ball, Venomous Ball, Skateboarder, Knight, Laser Ball, Power Armor Ball, and Frozen Ball. Alright, let's talk about the B tier units in Ball Tower defense. Now, before we dive into specifics, I know what you're thinking. B tier might sound a little meh, but trust me, these units still have some real value. They're like that backup player who might not be the star, but they're still reliable when it counts. So, grab your popcorn and let's take a look at some of these underdogs. First up, we've got Partyman. It's a bit of a mixed bag, one of the weaker legendaries, but hey, it's still a legendary, right? Those superb stats still give it some punch in the right situations, especially if you're short on better options. It's not the flashiest pick, but when you need something solid, it gets the job done. Next, let's talk about Turkey. Don't let the name fool you, it's not going to win any beauty contests. This unit is a bit of a throwback to the classic Dart Monkey days, not exactly breaking any records, but still holding its own. It's cheap and solid for early game DPS, or just a reliable starter for when you need to lay down some quick defense. Not the showstopper, but a dependable choice for the price. Now we're moving on to Miner Ball. This unit is all about that sweet DPS. It's one of the better options if you're going for a solid damage dealer, and it can make a noticeable difference right from the start. If you've got this unit in your arsenal, you're set for some serious firepower, especially for those awesome setups. Autumn Ball though, yeah, I've got some strong opinions here. This unit's probably the weakest mythic in the game. I mean, it's just not great. It loses out to some legendaries, and honestly, it could be higher up in the awesome unit rankings, but it just doesn't live up to expectations. A real letdown in terms of performance, which is why it lands in B tier. Sorry, Autumn Ball fans. Then there's Dart Monkey, which I'm placing in the same category as Turkey. Honestly, it's a bit of a classic, but it's not going to win any medals. Like Turkey, it's solid for starting off and filling in gaps, but once you start unlocking stronger units, it tends to fall behind. Still, it has its place, especially when you need a cheap option to get the ball rolling. We can't forget Princess Ball. Now, farming units are always nice to have, but let's be real, Princess Ball doesn't really shine in that department. The money it generates on hit is pretty minimal, so it's often outclassed by other farm units. But if you're lacking other options, it's still a decent pick for filling that farming role in your B tier lineup. Venomous Ball is next on our list, and this one's a bit of a sleeper hit. If you're looking for poison effects, which, let's face it, are usually better than burn effects, Venomous Ball is a solid choice, plus it has decent DPS, so it's not just all about the poison, it can hold its own in damage too. Last but not least, we've got Skateboarder. It's not the best when it comes to raw DPS, but once you start upgrading, the summon cooldown gets pretty sweet. This unit can start becoming pretty useful as you progress, especially if you enjoy the strategy of summoning units in waves. So there you have it, B tier units in Ball Tower defense. They may not be the stars of the show, but they bring enough to the table to be worthwhile, especially if you're still working your way up in the game. Whether it's that sweet DPS from Minor Ball, the farming potential of Princess Ball, or the poison power of Venomous Ball, there's something here for every kind of strategy. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Slicer, Crusher, Brain Ball, Mini Baller, Piercer, Robo Ball, Crusher Ball, Angel Ball, and Giant Ball. Let's talk about some of the A tier units in Ball Tower defense, shall we? These units are a perfect balance of power, utility, and a little bit of fun to mess around with. They may not be the top dogs like S tier units, but trust me, they'll get the job done and look good doing it. First up, we've got Slicer. Now, if you love some straight up no nonsense DPS, Slicer is a solid pick. It's one of the best legendary units when it comes to dishing out damage fast. If you've got the gems for it, you're looking at a 300 gem price tag and 30k coins, which makes it a bit of an investment. But that demand is definitely worth it, sitting at a solid 710. Next, we've got Crusher. If you're a fan of AoE damage, then Crusher is your best friend. With a great AoE range, this legendary unit can hit multiple targets at once, making it a solid pick for any wave with clusters of enemies. At 350 gems and 35k coins, it's a bit pricier than Slicer, but it's got the potential to handle a lot of enemies at once. I'd rate its demand about the same, 710. Moving on to Brain Ball, which is a bit of a weird one in this A tier group. This mythic unit doesn't have quite the firepower of the Autumn Ball, but it still holds its own thanks to mythic stats. It's the weakest of the mythics, but definitely gives legendaries a run for their money. The demand here is lower though, around a 410, and the price tag isn't for the faint of heart. Expect to spend between 7k, 8k gems, and a whopping 800k coins. If you're into single target DPS, you'll want to check out Mini Baller. Not only does it pack a punch with high damage, but it also pierces through units, which is a game changer when it comes to placement. You can snag it for around 300 gems and 30k coins, and the demand is a solid 710. You'll want to place this little guy carefully though, it's not a set it and forget it unit. And right alongside Mini Baller is Piercer. Essentially a twin to Mini Baller, Piercer also delivers strong single target damage with that piercing bonus. The only difference? Maybe a little bit of a cheaper price tag. You're looking at 250 gems and 25k coins here. Demand wise, it's a bit less at 610, but still a great pick if you're after piercing power. Now, if you're after something with piercing that doesn't totally break the bank, Robo Ball is your unit. This alternative option offers decent piercing damage with slightly cheaper upgrades, making it a good budget choice for those who want efficiency without draining their resources. At 190 gems and 19k coins, Robo Ball is definitely a cost-effective option, though the demand is just a 610. Not bad, but not as flashy as the others. Let's talk about Crusher Ball. This one isn't as strong as some of the other legendaries, but it does have a fantastic AoE DPS that can really shine during the early waves. It's a decent pick for crowd control, especially when you're dealing with swarms of enemies. At 120 gems and 120k coins, it's cheap for a legendary, but the demand is only around 410. It's solid, but not the go-to for late game. Last but not least, we've got Angel Ball. This unit is all about that high single target DPS, and it's a beast when it comes to taking down tougher enemies. The only downside? It has some pretty poor range, so placement is key. For 130 gems and 13k coins, Angel Ball is a solid pick for a late game damage dealer, though its demand is lower at 410. Not a bad choice, just a little limited, and that's it. These A tier units may not be the absolute best of the best, but they're definitely worth considering when building your team. Whether you're looking for AoE, piercing power, or pure damage, there's something for everyone. Just be sure to place them right and watch them shine. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Baller, Golden Monkey, Boulder, Chef, King Ball, Virus Ball, and Fancy Ball. Alright folks, today we're diving into the world of Ball Tower defense, and I'm bringing you the cream of the crop, the S tier units. If you're looking to dominate the battlefield and make your enemies regret crossing you, then you're going to want these units in your arsenal. Trust me, these guys don't just play the game, they change the game. Let's start with the absolute beast in the DPS department, Baller. This unit is a mythical powerhouse with bouncing attacks that can shred through balloons like a hot knife through butter. The DPS is insane, and the best part, it's affordable. Upgrading this guy won't break the bank, and once it's up and running, you'll see just how quickly it clears out waves. If you want top tier performance without draining your resources, Baller is your go-to. It's got a high demand and for good reason, 120k gems and 12 million coins, but it's totally worth it. Next up, we've got Golden Monkey, and if you don't have this unit, what are you even doing? Seriously, this is the king of farming. If you're looking to stack up those resources and max out your upgrades faster than ever, Golden Monkey is a must-have in any loadout. Its trade value may not be as sky high as some of the others, but with its gem cost sitting at 8k and coins at 800k, it's an absolute steal. You can't go wrong with a unit that brings in all the cash you need while still being effective in battle. Now, let's talk about Boulder. I absolutely love this one for its incredible AoE, area of effect, damage and range. The Boulder has that perfect balance between raw damage and coverage, making it a great choice when you're facing large waves. But here's the kicker, it can block your other units. So, while it's an absolute monster in terms of damage, you'll need to position it carefully to avoid getting in the way of your other defenders. Still, with a trade value of 30k gems and 3 million coins, it's a solid investment that you'll definitely want to make. Then, we've got Chef. Now, if you're not lucky enough to grab a Golden Monkey, don't worry, Chef is your next best option for farming. It's a great alternative that still gives you solid returns. With a relatively low cost of 150 gems and 15k coins, this unit won't take a chunk out of your resources, but still does the job when it comes to getting those sweet upgrades rolling in. It may not be as flashy as some of the mythicals, but its utility in farming is unbeatable. Let's round things off with King Bull and Virus Bull. First, King Bull. When fully upgraded, this unit starts summoning a ton of units, making it an excellent utility pick for higher difficulties. It's great for adding a bit of chaos to the battlefield and can definitely help you hold the line when things get tough. It's not the cheapest at 12k gems and 1.2 million coins, but its ability to create a small army is pretty invaluable. And then there's Virus Bull, which might not have the same flashy summons as King Bull, but it's an affordable DPS powerhouse. You get great value for the price, and it's super effective in the early and mid game. With its cheap placement and low cost upgrades, it's a solid pick that punches way above its weight. So there you have it, your top tier S units in Bull Tower defense. These units are essential if you want to crush your enemies and leave them in the dust. Whether you're farming with Golden Monkey, dealing insane damage with Baller, or using Boulder to wipe out entire waves, these units will keep you at the top of your game, happy defending, and may your upgrades come fast and furious. The units in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Golem, Mecha Bull, Omega Knight, Void Bull, and Jester. Alright, let's dive straight into some of the absolute powerhouses of Bull Tower defense. If you're aiming for the top tier units that absolutely wreck everything in sight, you're going to want to know about these S+ tier units. Buckle up, because the Golem, Mecha Bull, Omega Knight, and Champion are here to steal the show. First up, we have the Golem. This bad boy is the absolute peak of Bull Tower defense units in terms of stats. It might just be slightly behind Omega Knight in AoE DPS, but where it really shines is its insane melee damage. Golem's versatility is what makes it so dominant. Whether you're dealing with massive groups or focusing on high damage against single targets, this thing is just a beast. No wonder it's the meta, right? Expect to trade it for about 850k to 1 million gems, or around 90 to 100 million coins. It's in high demand for a reason, so if you've got it, you know it's a hot commodity. Next, we've got Mecha Bull, and let me tell you, this unit is seriously underrated, especially for newcomers. It's super easy to max out and has a fantastic starting placement. And those missiles, they can hit up to 3 million damage, which is no joke at all. Mecha Bull isn't just about raw power though, its value also lies in how accessible and effective it is to use. The trade value for this one is around 850k to 900k gems, or 85 to 90 million coins. You can't go wrong with this as your go-to for crushing enemies. Now, if you're all about that AoE damage, Omega Knight is where you need to be looking. With the highest AoE damage in the game at a whopping 750k, this unit will clear crowds faster than you can blink. It's the perfect unit to bring the pain to hordes of enemies, and it's a must-have if you're optimizing for AoE DPS. Its trade value sits at 750k to 800k gems, or 75 to 80 million coins. With a demand of 810, it's a solid choice, but just a step behind the real top contenders. Moving on, let's talk about Void Bull, which is kind of like the Golem's younger, faster cousin. While it doesn't quite match the Golem in damage output, it makes up for it with its superior speed and range. It's a cheaper upgrade too, making it a great alternative for players who need something a bit more affordable but still effective. At 500k gems and a demand of 910, it's a steal. This one's definitely a go-to if you're looking for something that punches above its weight class. Then we have the Jester. Think of Jester as the little brother to the Golem, with lower damage but much faster and more mobile. Plus, it's got cheaper upgrades, so it's a fantastic unit if you want something that can move quickly around the battlefield. It's a solid pick if you need a budget-friendly alternative to the heavy hitters. Its trade value is pretty affordable at 200k to 220k gems, or 20 to 22 million coins. It might not have the crazy damage output of the Golem, but with a demand of 710, it's still highly sought after by players looking for a balance of speed and cost. So, whether you're aiming for sheer power with the Golem, quick dominance with Mecha Ball, or solid flexibility with Void Ball and Jester, these S+ tier units are definitely your go-to picks for maximum destruction. All of them bring something unique to the table, and with their trade values, it's clear why they're in such high demand. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.